welcome to episode 51 of the Roker Rapport podcast. I'm joined by Gav today. How are you doing, Gav?
Alright, mate. Not bad.
I'm joined by Connor. Connor, how's things?
Good, yeah. Good to be in the studio.
And I'm joined by James. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm great after the weekend, mate. Great.
Good. And we won. Can you believe it? I can't. We won 2-0. We got goals from the Honeyman and we got goals from Vaughan. James, you were there. I'll throw it to you first. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, well, it was kind of like a typical 0-0 relegation battle sort of game for the first half. There wasn't really much in it from either team. And then I think we got behind their defence once. Oviedo with a nice ball inside that was cleared by Burton. But apart from that, it was just like chances from afar. We had the McNair one that was at the near post, and then Burton had a few through Marvin Sordell. It was quite close, quite easy, and then the subs in the second half definitely changed everything. Nice and proactive, changed the shape of the game, changed how we were playing. But they kept the same approach, didn't just go long ball like under Grayson when Vaughan came on. And just kept going at it and deserved the win in the end. I think personally it was just a perfect away performance.
Coleman was, well, I just think his decision making was spot on.
If you compare it to Grayson's earlier in the season, the Derby match, first home game of the season, where he kind of refused to bring Kazri on, didn't he, when the game was crying out?
Weird. He made no subs that game.
Yeah,
He did not make any subs like the first two games or something.
And there was a couple of games where he kind of failed to act, wasn't there, or acted too late, but you don't get that sense with Coleman, do you?
That's the main thing. It's the reactive substitutions that he made. We were at a stage of the game where Burton were never going to score. You could see they were tired. You could see they were sitting deeper and deeper. And I think in the past that, I don't know, I think Grayson might have played for a point in that stage, kept it tight, but then I think he made all three changes within the span of 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. Gibson coming on for me changed the game. I was talking to you before, I think he was man of the match. I gave him man of the match on the show, on the site, sorry. Mainly because when he got his foot on the ball, it pushed us 10 yards further up.
Yeah.
And I thought that, you know, Burton was sat that deep. That's perfect for Gibson.
He's a composed passer.
Yeah, well, he's not going to charge around. He's not going to try and win the ball back. But if he's given 10 yards of space to play, he is a really good footballer. So I thought that really changed it up. Then obviously bringing on after that Vaughan gave us something extra up front. Graben, I think, is a good goal scorer, but he's not much of a footballer, if you know what I mean. He isn't going to come deep, lay it off. He's not going to run in behind.
Go for headers, does he?
Nah, but he's good at getting into good positions. Obviously that's shown in the amount of goals he's scored this season. But sometimes you need somebody alongside him, and Vaughan is a battering ram. He's going to run his heart out. So when James Vaughan came on, I thought that Burton's defence is pretty poor anyways, but I thought they weren't really expecting it. And then obviously Asoro coming on after that gave us a bit of pace and width. I'm not his biggest fan. I've stood by that for a while now. I've seen a lot of under-23s football this season, and he does not look interested in playing at that level. When he's come on for the first team, he's underwhelmed for me. But he is a young lad, and he's going to have days like that. But that was his defining moment for me on Saturday. The quality of the ball in the box was, outstanding. He isn't a great crosser generally, but I think he came on and done the business, and that gives me hope, especially with Watmore being out. I just think that going forward we need players, unheralded players, to step up. McManaman being another one. We're going to rely on those heavily.
Talking of players stepping up, I was very impressed with Browder as well, coming back into the side. I thought he did very well, and getting the clean sheet as well. It's just kind of like that added bonus to the win, wasn't it?
He looks like a proper defender, doesn't he? We've not had like a defender who just loves defending for a while. And he's got that enthusiasm.
Yeah. He's athletic.
Yeah,
he's athletic, and he's got pace, and he's got height, and he's got strength.
And he looks like he's got the potential to lead as well. For somebody being so young, he looks like he's of a good character as well. His head doesn't tend to go down. He's good.
I really like it's not just like his physical presence with Browning. Like he's a big lad and he's got a lot of pace. But you can tell he's an accomplished defender as well. Like the way he reads the game. One moment that points out, like in my mind for me, it was like kind of innocuous. Really, wasn't that big. It was in the first half. Matthews got done for pace by the little Burton tricky little fast winger, and then Browning like read it perfectly. He was out there and like won the ball back with a brilliant like sliding challenge and knocked it out. I think it was either for a throw in or a corner. Like it's a small like innocuous challenge, but you're not going to see John O'Shea or Mark Wilson do that. And they're probably not even going to be able to get out there by the byline so quickly either in the first place.
It benefits O'Shea immensely having somebody with that amount of pace next to him. There was one point in the game where O'Shea, I thought he actually did okay. He wasn't great, but he did okay. But there was a point in the game where O'Shea, he approached their man, I can't remember who it was, and the lad just literally knocked it round him and then ran the other side. And I was thinking, that's where O'Shea, they're starting to work him out. But his reading of the game's tremendous, and, Browning's going to benefit immensely from just playing alongside an experienced player like that. But I'm a bit on the fence with O'Shea. I just think Coleman came out after the game and spoke about O'Shea and Cattermole specifically about the leadership that they bring to the team. And it's great, but it all seems to happen when a manager first arrives at Sunderland. The same players step up, and then it's about continuing it after that. Cattermole, for me, I didn't have a great game, but I mean, we won and we got a clean sheet, and it was one of the 2 changes that he made. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I just think that as an all-round performance, it was a good team effort. Yeah. But there was a moment in that game where I didn't think we were going to get anything more than a point. But it was quick thinking by the manager, which really got us over the line.
I just hope it can be one of those kind of season-defining moments in terms of, staying up, getting mid-table or whatever we're going to achieve. Hopefully we'll look back at Burton and think that was the moment where it changed, because we desperately needed the clean sheet, hadn't kept a clean sheet all season, and we hadn't won since Norwich. Morale's been on the floor, and, Coleman loses this one and then fails to get a result in the next one, and it's kind of what's happening. So yeah. I think he's done really well. What do we make of Coleman so far? Our thoughts? I thought his celebrations at the end were tremendous.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's charismatic. I was reading something today on the Sunderland Echo, and they were talking about the need to have a charismatic figure at Sunderland, and I agree with them, because the fans need somebody to kind of cling on to and sort of.
He says a lot of the same things as Grayson, but he seems to say them better with more authority, doesn't he? You kind of believe it when it's coming from Coleman, but with Grayson, he looked a bit like a rabbit in the headlights, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think Coleman definitely. He has the balls for the job.
Yeah, I agree.
Bluntly, and
you've got to give him mega respect for taking it. Yeah. There's some big Premier League jobs went the season already, and he opted to come to Sunderland, who were bottom of the Championship, and he was asked about it, and he said, "Look, league position doesn't bother me. This is a big club. Somebody's got to get it right eventually. It might not be me, it might be the next person, but why not have a go?" I love that attitude. He came in and he knew that. Well, he came in with his eyes wide open. He knew exactly what he was walking into. I hope in January he gets the money that he needs to strengthen the team. But to be honest with you,
that brings us on to a question actually from Twitter. Yeah. Sam Quigley says, "Who would you get rid of in January to fund any incomings?"
I think Didier and Dong, Lamine Kone.
I've got a feeling they're both out the door. I think.
Well, what's going on with Ndong at the moment? Because he was supposed to be a family bereavement, but he hasn't turned back up from that, has he?
He has.
He has.
I think he turned up late.
Right.
But Lamine Kone put a video on his Instagram story of the two of them in the training ground the other day. But apparently Ndong didn't come back the day that he was meant to. That's what I've heard. Right. But you don't know. But look, it doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter what, what they bring to the side, really. At the end of the day, we need a squad of players who are together. I've got a feeling that once those players are gone, that's when we can really take a step forward. Who they are, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we'll soon find out, though. I think the fact that Rodwell's not been anywhere near the team for the last 2 games probably tells you a lot about what Coleman thinks of him. And he was sounded out. I know the press were the ones who approached Coleman to talk about Rodwell.
He was quite open about it as well.
Yeah,
Coleman,
he was asked about it. It wasn't like he broached the subject, but he was quite happy to say, look, Jack's got a lot of ability, but if he doesn't want to be here, then
Coleman said if he wants me help he'll get it. I'll try, but he's got to give something back, hasn't he? He's got to show something, and he hasn't for I can't remember the last time he did show anything in a Sunderland shirt.
Never. He's never done it. He's been hopeless from day one.
I remember when he signed though. I remember when he signed for us, and we had a friendly. I think it was in Bishop Auckland. I was there. I can't remember who we played. But anyways, we had a friendly in pre-season, and it was Rodwell's first game. And I thought, oh god, I what a player! He looks class. It was against Darlington,
he scored on his debut against Man United. Let's not forget.
Was it a header?
Yeah, the header corner.
He's quite potent in the box. He's pretty decent in the air.
The thing is, he's so badly done to by all the injuries over the years. I think he's got no self-belief.
Yeah, he's mentally not there anymore, isn't he?
I don't think he has enthusiasm for the game. I think, you've talked about before, Gav, this will be his last club, and I'll probably agree. I think he'll stay out his contract and then he'll be done.
Yeah, it's all psychological with Rodwell. We know he's got the ability. You've seen in glimpses that he's got the ability. You've seen his time at Everton, how good he was there. But it's all psychological, all his mind, his problems. And I kind of feel like Watmore might be a little bit like that, but like I think Watmore's got a much bigger strength of character than Rodwell. But to come back after 2 injuries, exactly the same, and exactly the same ACL in his right knee. I fear for his psychological like well-being and as a footballer afterwards.
It can't be easy. Like, I mean, there's been some canny examples of players, like Sunderland players, who've come back from multiple knee injuries, like Fraser Campbell, for instance. I know he's not had a great career, really, but he got capped by England after 2 injuries, you know.
Currently experiencing it. He's done the same injury twice to his knee.
Yeah. Like, you look at Callum Wilson. Like, Callum Wilson at Bournemouth just been out with 2 ACLs. I mean, one was his right, one was his left. It was like 2 different legs, but like it's not the same one. But psychologically, he's been back and came back and banged in a hat trick. And I think Watmore just needs to look at people like Wilson, like look at his work ethic. And I think Watmore's got a similar sort of work ethic. And his dad, Ian, was on Twitter like saying like how he's just had his operation and he's feeling optimistic, he's feeling good and he's ready to get back in. I mean, he's not going to say anything else publicly, but I feel like if anyone will come back from that sort of injury, it'll be Watmore.
It couldn't, you know. Such a nice lad now. Like, I've got so much time for him. You know, I think he's just the right. He's the type of person you want playing for Sunderland.
Yeah,
he's got so much time for everybody. He's obviously quite an approachable person. He's of good character. You know, he's got an education behind him, and he's done well for himself away from football. And I think like he's having his prime years really taken away from him is pretty sad.
From the family he's from and what his dad does and stuff like that. It would be quite easy for him to kind of look down on Sunderland and think that maybe he was one of these that was doing the club a favour, but he's never ever been like that. He's just got to it straight away.
Say the problem with knee injuries as well is you don't know how strong it's never going to be as strong as it was, and that's got to play on your mind, especially when it's happened twice. But if there's anybody going to come back from 2 knee injuries, I think it'll be him. I get what you're saying. Like, mentally, it must be torture for anybody, but I think of any player at Sunderland currently, if they're going to overcome something like that, it's going to be doing a lot more.
The hardest thing for him will be when he gets back on the pitch and he'll have to ride that first challenge.
I remember Michael Bridges coming back the second time he came back after he'd had a load of injuries. I mean, he left Sunderland on a high, went to Leeds, was one of the top strikers in the Premier League, got a really bad injury. I think he might have broke his leg. And he never returned the same player, Michael Bridges. And I remember when he come back to Sunderland on loan in the Championship, I went to New Ferrens Park with my dad to watch us play. That's where we used to play the reserve games. It was Bridges' first game back. And I always remember the first thing my dad pointed out was, look, he's just riding every tackle. And he was. He was jumping over everything. He was out the way. Yeah. And I just think that's probably what put Michael Bridges from being like an England class striker right down to an average centre forward. It was because he'd been injured and it plays on your mind. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But the good thing about like what I think Coleman's done the last 2 games is how he's introduced to Soro. That's going to, like, on this topic of Watmore, like the Soro, like the way he's played, the impact, like the speed that he's got. If we can have a player who can replace that aspect of the game that what we've lost through Watmore, that would benefit us massively long term if he can live up to the early hype from a couple of years ago. Even though I've seen him a couple of times in the 23s, don't rate him that massively.
Yeah,
but his genuine like pace, like could just. The same as Watmore, just threatened some of the weaker defences in the league.
You've got to utilise it, because then you look at that team that started on Saturday and there's just no pace. We've got nothing on the bench. He's pretty much our only pacey outlet.
Yeah.
And you've got to find a way of getting him in the team. It's unfortunate that you've got to rely so heavily on a young lad, but I mean, we did pay a lot of money to get him, and we did pay a lot of, we brought his family over, gave them a house, jobs. They obviously thought a lot of Vasora when they bought him. He was brought here with, a long-term plan in mind. Maybe not at this stage, they didn't think he'd be playing for the first team, but we haven't got a lot of money. We've got at least a month before we can actually sign the players. So maybe it's a Soro's time to step up. I don't know. Like you said, I've watched the under-23s all season, and it doesn't stand out a great deal. Although I think there's a wider issue with the under-23s. I just think they don't play great football, and maybe that affects a player like Soro when he's playing a lone striker against 2 centre halves and he's about 5'6". But I can't fault him for the way he came on the last 2 games, especially against Burton. Like I said earlier, the ball into Honeyman was perfect.
Yeah.
It was the same area that we attacked for the Vaughan goal, but being able to put his foot in the ball and coming away from the game thinking, I got an assist in that game, it's going to perk him up massively. And I think Coleman obviously thinks a lot of him because he's used him in 2 games now.
Yeah, I think the squad being the way it is, he's gonna have to kind of hang his hat on a couple of the younger players as well, possibly until January. One kind of figure that's dropped off slightly since Grayson left, and it leads to a question from Harry Macbeth: Aidan McGeady, aye or nah? What do we think at the moment?
For me, I think he's one of them players who's always going to be hot and cold in a season.
Yeah.
If you look at his goal scoring record for us so far, he scored his goals in kind of bunches.
And we knew that when we signed him.
Yeah,
didn't we?
he's never going to be the sort of player who's going to consistently score every other game and get assists every other game. What he does offer, though, is like when we played QPR, that moment where he just scores a goal for no reason.
Yeah,
and he's always got that in him. He's always has that ability, and that's why I think you've got to play him. I can see why people are getting frustrated because at the minute he's giving the ball away, his dribbling's poor.
Yeah.
Someone made a great point about McGeady though the other day. It was I can't remember who it was, but it was about the World Cup in Ireland. You know, you've got to think: was he playing with that in mind at the start of the season, knowing that getting into the Ireland team would give him a chance of going to the World Cup? Obviously, he's in his early 30s now, but he's not probably going to get another chance to go to the World Cup and play for his country. And you've got to think maybe with them now out of the qualification for the World Cup, what's his motivation? Essentially, a personal motivation was obviously
he's a Grayson player as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that as well. And look, he's an outlet in games where in the games he scored in the season. Very often they've been games we've lost, or the QPR one, for instance, we never deserved a point from that game, but a great goal got us it.
Same against Preston as well. The second goal, he pretty much tackled outside the edge of the box and banged it in the bottom corner. It was like a beautiful goal. But for much of the Preston game, he didn't really do much, McGeady. No. And I think that's what's like, every game is like 70 minutes, 80 minutes, doesn't really do anything. But then for 2 or 3, he gets that key pass or that key goal and he gets something.
If he was consistent, he wouldn't be playing for Sunderland.
Yeah, he'd still be at Everton.
That's exactly the point. We have him because he can't do it on a regular
and that's why
basis.
it cost 250,000.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe it's about accommodating him in the team. Like I thought at the weekend, he was probably our worst player. You mentioned the stat in our group chat earlier, Connor.
Yeah, he gave away the ball 10 times. He got dispossessed, tackled.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really poor performance from a player who's lacking in confidence, I think. But maybe the case, I think, to be honest, I think his best position is playing off the striker and behind. I just think when he's getting in that space and behind a striker, he's at his most dangerous. He's not the type of player who's going to hit the byline and whip a cross in.
Yeah.
He likes to cut inside and he likes to use his right foot.
And with age as well, his legs only going to fail him.
He's not as quick as he used to be.
No.
So maybe it's a case of when Coleman eventually gets around to developing a system.
Well, that's the thing with Coleman's system at the moment is that he likes to play 5 at the back, but he's admitted that he doesn't have the personnel.
Yeah.
And if he does play that system, where does McGeady fit into that? He's either because he could play off the striker in theory, but is McGeady going to be kind of a first name on the team sheet with a 5 at the back? I'm not so sure.
I think he would play. I think he would in a 5 when you've got a 5-man defence. There's often a space there for a number 10 further up the field. I think it's more about can we build a team around him and grab him, because I think their weakness is something we've got to try and get around. Like I said before, Graben's all-round game is pretty awful, but he knows where the back of the net is, so maybe it's about getting players around him who can develop the ball essentially and get him in areas where he can be dangerous, because I know Vaughan can't play at the weekend against Reading, but James Vaughan came on and he did beef that attack line up, whether you like him or not. He's not going to get us a lot of goals this season, but there is a use for him in that
He's
team.
a nuisance, wasn't he?
Yeah. And you've got to hope that you've just got to hope going forward that he can be reinvigorated. I spoke about this to somebody earlier on. You kind of look at the job Coleman did for Hal Robson-Carnew's career at Wales.
That's just astounding that how well Hal Robson-Carnew has done as a free agent when he was at the Euros when he didn't have a club.
That's it. But he was a low average championship forward. And then I know Pulis signed him and West Brom haven't done great, but he's been used. But the point is that he had a use in a team which done very well at the Euros.
Yeah.
You've got to kind of look at someone like Vaughan and think he's probably going to relish working with someone like Vaughan. Someone who's really underperformed since he got here. Can he do something with him and find a use for him in a system which works for the full team?
That's the encouraging thing for me about Coleman is when he was at Wales, he got the best out of a limited pool of resources. He couldn't buy anybody. He had to work with what he had. He had to find a way of moulding those players into a system and get the best out of them, and he did. Admittedly, he had Bale and Ramsey and Allen, but he also had like the likes of Jazz Richards and James Collins, who
that's exactly the point. What
aren't
he has
that worse
to do,
than what we're working with now?
Yeah, what he has to do is he's already done it a little bit. We've seen with Darren Gibson. Find what people are good at and go with it. Don't shoehorn people into the wrong places. You know,
that was Grayson's biggest failing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tried. It was like he didn't really know where to play Honeyman. Honeyman started the season quite well, but he never got like a position for him in the team. Was he playing
three
centre?
right backs at once, and constantly chopping and changing your goalkeepers and your defence. He kept the same back five. That was one of the big things for me. I did something on the site today, just assessing what Coleman did on Saturday, and one of the big things for me was keeping the same back five.
Yeah,
he's kept
definitely.
faith in Robin Router, who has had a really poor season so
He had
far.
a couple of flaps against Burton as well.
But then you've got to think the clean sheet will do his confidence a world of good.
Yeah.
But getting selected again does.
Yeah, and that I was at the 2 games he played in pre-season. I was at Bradford and Scunthorpe.
That was
and
when he won his contract, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I was at Carlisle in the Cup as well, and he was man the match in all 3 games. He was outstanding in every game.
Well, he was really unlucky against Carlisle because he saved the penalty and I got knocked in.
Yeah. But he was just tremendous in every game, and that at that point, I mean, the 2 pre-season games, he was fighting to win a contract. In the Cup game, he was fighting to get recognised.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the lines, just because we're getting hammered every week, it's obviously affected him and it's affected Steele as well to an extent. But I think of the 2 goalkeepers, Router is the better. I just think that now Coleman's got to pick a back 5 and stick with it through thick and thin.
Yeah, I agree. We need the consistency, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with the instability and the turmoil the club's been through this season. I just think we could really benefit from that kind of, not even the same 11, but kind of same way of playing and the same personnel at the back. It'll give us a nice platform.
Just until we get ourselves out of the mess, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Reading on Saturday who are not doing great. That's a massive game, especially considering we haven't won a home game in so long. That's a real opportunity for us to then pick up that first home win, get that hoodoo out of the way, and move on to Wolves, which is going to be an absolutely mental game, really, because they're such a good side.
Yeah, they are good.
Very good. If you can get that win against Reading and go into there's a little bit less pressure on the Wolves game then.
It's kind of a freebie, the Wolves game, isn't it? Kind of.
We've got to go one game at a time, really.
Yeah.
But I just think Reading is a perfect opportunity. If Coleman could have picked 2 games to play once he got Villa out of the way, you couldn't have picked 2 better than this, really.
Yeah. And if anybody's going to be motivated for Reading, it'll be Lewis Grabban. Lewis Grabban got pelters of Reading fans last season for lack of motivation, lack of effort. When he scored 2 goals, I think, in 15, 16
Stan
games.
played him right wing, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not been here that long, but does anybody here think Lewis Grabban's a right winger?
No, not in the slightest. The one thing he's got is he knows where the goal is in this division.
That's it. That's all he's got, really.
His build-up play isn't great. As Connor says, he never goes for a header, really. I don't think I can remember winning a header.
His heading infuriates me. You sit next to me at the match, I get infuriated every time.
But Darren Bent was like that. I keep saying it.
Darren Bent couldn't jump off the floor.
Yeah.
He's like a bargain Darren Bent to me. He does the same. He moves in the same way.
Yeah.
I used to watch Darren Bent and think, like, how's he got 20 odd goals? Like, what's he? But he does nothing else. And
you can't train being in the right place.
It's kind of a throwback
in a way, certain don't.
Because the top class strikers have that and a bit more to the game, whereas Grabban's in the Championship because he just really has that, doesn't he?
That's the thing, really. Sunderland fans have got to kind of look at what we've got. So I think there's a reason they're here.
I was talking about Grabban the other week, and I was saying, like, I don't think he's a poacher, like a poacher in the old sense that Jermaine Defoe is a poacher. He's always going to stay between generally the 2 posts, and just get on the end of things, go for things, read where the ball's going to go, and be there. Grabban seems to be just a good finisher. He's got a good finish on him. He's got a decent amount of pace. His positioning's not brilliant. Like, his position's always a little bit off. It's like for the goal at Aston Villa, I thought his position was just quite wrong. He went to the near post, and there's 2 defenders and a goalkeeper there, whereas Vaughan peeled off. And Grabban, with some good reactions, did get the finish. I don't think he's a traditional poacher. I think he's just a good finisher and an accomplished Championship striker.
He never seems to be on the last man, Grabban, does he? He always just seems to be somewhere in between the 10 and the 9.
He infuriates me sometimes because we're trying to attack late in the game when we're getting beat, obviously, because we always are. And he's not in the box. He's sitting on the outside. Yeah. What are you doing?
I was looking at like the average positions of our players on Saturday, and our most advanced player on average was George Honeyman. Grabban was level with Paddy McNair for much of the game, and that's because of how deep he comes. Maybe that's part of I would just say it's our creative problems and our Grayson, but we seem to be better. We had 6 shots on target, like 13 altogether against Burton, which is much better than we've had recently. But that shows how deep Grabban likes to come to receive the ball.
He did help to create the second goal because he won the ball twice, like in midfield, to play it across to Azor. So I mean, maybe we're cutting him a disservice.
I wouldn't dispute that he he definitely brings a lot of quality to us. I just think that in a better system, you'll have someone alongside him or in behind him.
Yeah.
That much is clear, I think. I just think that he's a better player when somebody's feeding him. The goal against Norwich and the one at Brentford, where they were both long balls in behind, he was. Those are the goals he'll score 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
When you put a ball in between two defenders and he's just about to peel off and he goes, and like I say, he's got a decent amount of pace, good finisher. I just wonder whether in January we might actually try and buy another striker, particularly with Watmore being out. It was like that question you asked earlier: who would you get rid of to bring in new players? I think I can probably earmark 4 positions in the squad which need to be strengthened, like pretty crucially.
What would you say those were?
I guess we could see how December goes, but I think a goalkeeper, as much as I want Router to do well, I just think that maybe Coleman might decide to get his own keeper in. Definitely. Particularly as there's someone like Danny Ward going spare at Liverpool on loan. Yeah. I think we probably need another centre half because O'Shea's not going to play every game every week.
He can't, can he? Is it?
Wilson's quite clearly a crock. Just doesn't play. He's in and out of the team. He's injured every time he plays. And Galloway is awful. So
Galloway, what unit is he now? Is he on the bench for games? I've never seen him.
Nah.
Was against Villa, but...
This leads me to a question from Craig Jackson on Twitter, actually. If all fit, what is the preferred partnership in the centre of defence under Coleman? But I think that's kind of a leading question because he'll go to with 3 eventually. So I think he'll have to sign somebody.
Do you think he'll go with the 3? Do you think he'll eventually...
I do.
I really think he admitted in his first press conference that's what he wants to do.
I think the 3 covers for a lot of your inadequacies.
If we keep playing well, if he sticks with the 4 and we'll, say we did up to January win 2 or 3 more games, why would he change it?
No, that's a good point, but I don't think we will.
But
he's probably thinking of something in 2 stages. He's thinking, short term, how can I stabilise this club? How can I get them into the middle of the table, which is where we need to be by February, I think.
I said this on. I called into to Spark. I was on Sportsbite, and I was talking them through the kind of evolutionary process of Coleman at Wales. And he started by kind of making them defensively solid. They had a couple of strings to the bow because they could sit and defend, but they were good on the counter attack and they could play a bit of football. But he'll make us hard to beat firstly, and then you'll start to see us playing a bit better football against the likes of Burton and stuff like that. It'll be a process. I think we need to give him a bit of time as well.
Yeah.
With Wales, he found out exactly. Like, people always say he had Aaron Ramsey, Gareth Bale. But he found out how to get the best out of Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale. And I know the form they're in, it's not hard. But at first, it really was quite difficult. And then he found out the best formation, the best system to get the best out of those players. And if you can do that with some of our players, like we mentioned earlier, McGeady and Graben, who've obviously got the talent, if he can find out the system and get the best out of them...
He's not scared to shake things up in the dressing room as well. Like, he took the captaincy off Ramsey, which was a big thing. Ramsey's a Cardiff guy. Coleman's a Swansea lad, so he's taken the captaincy away from a Cardiff, and there's that divide kind of divided the fan base a little bit. And he showed the strength of character to do it, explained to Ramsey why he was doing it, gave it to Williams, explained to Bale why he wasn't getting it, and got everybody pulling in the same direction. And I think that's crucial if he's going to survive at Sunderland. He needs to get that dressing room, as fractured as it's been in the past, pulling in the same direction.
Which is why I wouldn't be surprised if they're already putting the wheels in motion to get rid of a couple of players. He probably already knows. He's probably already been told who he needs to get rid of.
I'd imagine
by the likes of Stockdale. The people who are around the club every day will know who the bad eggs are.
He's good mates with Kevin Ball as well.
Yeah. You mentioned that Kevin Ball and
Andy Melville.
Andy Melville. Yeah. I would. That's something down the line I'd like to see is Kevin Ball more involved.
I've said this,
especially since there's a close personal relationship there. There's a lot of trust. It just makes no sense at all to have Kevin Ball not involved because he knows the club so well.
Yeah, I completely agree.
He immediately commands respect when he walks into a room.
No, he does.
And Coleman could do a lot worse really than bringing him closer. He might have already. I don't know, but I think that's something to look at down the line. The players, like you say, if they're going to foster a togetherness and a good team spirit, he's going to need all the help he can get from his coaching staff. Ball will bring that to Sunderland. We know he will because as a player he was just a leader, wasn't he, on the pitch?
He's just a downright nice bloke as well. I mean, he did an interview. Well, he's done 4 parts for the site now. And the 4th part we were scheduled it for before the QPR game, but he had to do club duties, so he ended up cancelling. And he said, "Oh, I'll come to you next time." And true to his word, he came and he sat in this very studio and talked to us. And this was the day after Grayson got sacked as well, so he had things on his mind and other things to be doing. But he was true to his word. He came in, he sat with us for half an hour and talked to us, didn't he?
Yeah, did.
On the question of attitude and such, like, what did we all make of the Vaughan celebration?
I was at first it kind of like me as pricked up, and I was like, "What's he doing? What's that about?" But then part of us, in reflection, can understand why he might be frustrated. They're still human beings at the end of the day, footballers, and when you're getting told your shit every day by the fans of the club that you play for, it's going to have an effect.
And he's quite active on Twitter, Vaughan, so he'll see all of this as well.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that he's not had a chance to prove himself since Grabban started scoring all the goals. He's been on the bench mainly. So for him to get a goal, it probably let a lot of frustration out.
It shows passion,
maybe. Yeah, it shows passion.
Exactly. I would much rather he showed a passionate celebration than he just, went there. Well,
But
it happens. He scored.
Like somebody compared it to Barini earlier when he dove in front of David Moyes, and it's. See, with Vaughan, I think it's different. I just feel differently about him as a person than Barini when he did that.
See, I'd compare it or contrast it even more with Stephen Fletcher's celebration.
Yeah.
When he'd done the same thing. Was with Fletcher, you kind of know it's all about Fletcher. You knew everything was all about him. Whereas with Vaughan, he's angry. He's just back with a fan on Twitter after the game as well. But with Vaughan, you think he's got the character, the way that he shows himself on the pitch. You think that he's just genuinely hurt by what's said.
But you've got to think.
I just don't know why he's doing it after scoring.
Yeah.
He runs around as well. I know it's easy to put stock in just running around, but he does graft. He might not be, the most quality striker we've ever had at the club, but he does put the graft in. It must be frustrating for him that things haven't worked out as well as he would have liked.
He took a big gamble coming to Sunderland as well.
He was the man at Bury.
Left a comfort zone where he'd scored 20 odd goals for a poor side. Came here, took a gamble, came to a club where he thought that he'd be playing most weeks, I would imagine. He didn't come here to sit on the bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can understand why people are a little bit annoyed with him. I can understand why that might upset people, because people do believe that footballers are very lucky to be in the position they're in, and for you to then criticise the supporters, or that's what he appeared to be doing.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points, isn't there? I think it's you got to realise the human, but it's very easy, especially the likes of us, and we scream on the terraces and we write from our ivory towers and we criticise this, and when somebody gives us back a bit, I think sometimes you've just got to take it on the chin.
Aye, yeah.
He's got 2 and 16, so he does just need to learn how to react to that better. And I think Coleman will have a word with him with it. He won't lay into him, because that's not how Coleman is. He'll just sit down and talk to him, like man to man. And then because if Coleman's going to be like the way Coleman celebrated at the end of the game is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that was tremendous.
And the fans loved it, but he's going to need to have a word with Vaughan, because Vaughan can't be going out and saying these sort of things after the game. They need to show togetherness, and that's the fans and the players, not just the players themselves.
Well, in amongst all this, it's been kind of forgotten that he's now banned from the next game.
He got booked
because he got booked for going towards a crowd, I think.
That could cost him, though, because he put himself in a position to be.
He would have. I think he might have started the next game.
Now if Grabban scores at the weekend, say he goes with an Azoro as well.
Yeah.
And Azoro scores, and he's knocked himself.
You've got to be smarter than that. Like I think it's always bothered us. It used to bother us when Ross Wallace used to do it.
He got sent off against Hull.
People used to think it was great, and I used to think he's just being stupid because you're costing yourself.
See, I hate the rule. I think it's
but you know the rule
in the
though.
game.
Yeah,
but why
exist?
I get what you're saying, James. I think yes, the rule is stupid.
But we can't do anything about that.
But yeah,
you've got to play within the rules of it.
Yeah, we all know the rule.
But he would have probably played some part against Reading, especially at home. I like to think because the pitch is quite small at the stadium now, we might have went 2 up front. Maybe not changed the system too much, but maybe got somebody in alongside Grabban. Maybe not from the start, but he might have played for half an hour, depending on whatever the game plan was. But now we can't. We haven't got another striker to call upon now. So you've just got to hope that everything goes to plan with Grabban on Saturday, because if we are at the point in the game where we need somebody else up front, we're going to struggle. But that's he's got to learn from that, hasn't he?
We talked earlier about the goalkeepers. We've got a question from Twitter again. I think I already know the answer to this one, but is it time to drop Reuter and give somebody like James Talbot a chance? I mean, I'll come in on this and say, for the reasons already stated, that probably not, just for the sake of continuity at the moment. He's just got his clean sheet. Probably not, wise to drop him now, but should James Talbot be knocking on the door, given, or at least be, maybe on the bench in and around the squad, given the kind of incompetence by Steele recently?
You lads know how much I rate Talbot.
Yeah, you like him.
I think he's the best keeper at the club, personally. I've watched him for quite a while now. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, but he's never played professional football.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big issues with development at Sunderland is that we don't push enough of these lads out into playing professional football. Like Pickford, before he'd even made his Sunderland debut, had already played 100 games professionally.
But
that counts for so much, and it's under 23s football is all right sometimes, but it does nothing for development. I think that Talbot before and Stryjek to an extent, they both got to be playing football
back from
regularly
now as well, Stryjek.
I think he was just sent back because he didn't play at the weekend.
I think there's a problem with the under-23s as well, is that they play against and with the same group of players for so long, like 10 years coming up through the age groups. But kind of comes a bit of like a friends league, doesn't it? They're comfortable playing against each other. It's not intense. It's not professional football, is it?
It doesn't make any sense to me why they don't loan them out, because all the success stories we've had, Henderson had that loan spell at Coventry. Colback went to Ipswich twice, did really well. Pickford. Watmore went to Hibs. He went somewhere else, didn't he? I can't remember.
No, just Hibs. Yeah.
But you look at them, you're like, there's good examples of players that we've brought through who've done really well from a loan spell. And even ones we've let go, who've then went, like Egan went to Gillingham and proved himself. Yeah. We released him, but he did that. It just shows that they just need to play that professional football, get that feel of the dressing room.
Waghorn as well has gone off and proved himself to a degree.
It seems like the academy are more interested in winning things. Like this year, they're bottom. So like the bottom of the under-23s of our division. So like they're not going to win anything this season, but in the past they're always like first or second in the league. They're always up there, like, competing with like the Man United academy side. And it seems like a lot of the club hierarchy away from the academy, but within the club where the disconnect is, they've been too concerned with winning these victories of the development side instead of actually developing the players for the senior team.
The best example is probably Honeyman, because he's got to the age of 22, 23, and he's never played a game until he really come into the Sunderland side this season. He should have been out on loan years ago when they knew that he was a promising, prospect going forward. There's another one there now, Ethan Robson, who's just came off the bench against Villa, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he's played a couple of games.
Is a player who I think is stagnating at that level.
Massively stagnating.
Just hasn't developed in the last year or so.
Talk about Greenwood and stuff.
Greenwood's another one who he played in that Watford game at the end of the season when Aldice was manager.
We all thought that we were going to kick on though. One or two we thought they were going to come into the side and maybe get a bit more experience.
How can you kick on though when you're not getting? They're not getting a reason to kick on because they're just playing the same team.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, against Watford that end of the season, we all thought, these youngsters are going to have a few more opportunities.
They'll pinpoint it. They'll know that the reason why they haven't made it, if that's why it is because they were never given the opportunity to play.
Precisely that. You got someone like Tommy Robson who played in that game as well. I mean, his time here is over. You know, it's a shame really because they were given a chance in a game in the Premier League and stood up quite well. Probably played out their skins because it was the biggest opportunity of their lives. But after that point, you've got to think after that. Then you had the summer break. Those lads would have got loan moves to good clubs, and they didn't. And they were, for whatever reason, they didn't. But they would have if they'd been pushed enough. They would have been pushed out to decent clubs, League One standard clubs.
Forget about the club for a second as well. It's unfortunate for them that we're hanging on to them unnecessarily as well, and they're not being offered the chance to develop somewhere else.
Well, there's Josh Robson just come back in the under-23s team. The last couple of games, I think it's because Owen Gamble's injured.
Yeah, it is.
But he had barely kicked the ball since last year, really. Yeah. Played in the Dortmund game in pre-season and was given loads of praise for the way he played against a good side like Borussia Dortmund, and then just nothing.
Not even in the under-23s. He's been poor for the under-23s recently as well.
Yeah.
He had an awful last couple of games, and he's kind of been ostracised for asking for a loan move away, seemingly, as well.
But it's a shame. It's just the way things are at the minute with Sunderland. I think hopefully Coleman's around long enough to have an impact on that side of things as well, because we're kind of seeing now that maybe that group isn't good enough, or maybe there's a couple of players that could do with being away in January. It'd be interesting to see which ones go, like, if any, because I think you've got to now look at the likes of Elliot Embleton, Jack Diamond, Talbot.
Diamond looks really good.
Yeah, but those are like probably the strongest players in that group. You've got to maybe look and think, why not just send them to a Northern League side or a Conference side or a League Two side and just play men's football, you know?
Denver Hume could definitely get a move away as well.
He played well yesterday for the under-23s.
Even if they're not getting moves away, like even if the ones who are staying here, we need to build an identity throughout the club for the players to be moving forward, so you can see that progression, so they can so they're not just moving from the under-23s into the senior squad and having no idea what the style of football is, playing something completely different. All the successful academy sides where they get the players into the team, like Fulham have got an identity all throughout, from under-14 all the way through to the senior level, and they all play to that same system, so it's like they're just fitting into a different team, but it's exactly the same system, and it gives them a massive head start.
I think it's common sense as well. I mean, we'll look back to when Grayson was in charge and we had Everton in the League Cup, and instead of maybe throwing a couple of youngsters in just to see if they could do it, he plays 3 first-team right-backs. And
that was a real turning point for me with Grayson. Like, I think I kind of lost all faith in him that day.
Definitely.
Because, you know, Tom Beadlam might not be the answer, but let him play. Why play Billy Jones centre half?
He might not be the answer, but we don't even know.
Yeah, I know we're treading over ground moaning about something like that, but it's like, it's more indicative of just everything, really. It's like, why are we letting these lads stagnate? Why is Tom Beadlam even still at Sunderland? Send him out on loan.
But going forwards, like the way that Coleman's tread the youth levels so far, like getting them involved, he's kind of partly enforced due to injury, but he's not being afraid. He brought Ethan Robson on right at the end, trying to change the game, trying to push. He wasn't afraid to bring him in. He proactively brought Sora on to change the game. So if anything, we've hopefully got the right manager to try and push towards that and change that in the future.
Yeah, he's mentioned Mazur as well. Curious to see what happens to him, because obviously he's
such a shame he got injured. Because I've watched these couple of games since he come back, and you can tell he's struggling for fitness.
He looked really good in pre-season as well.
He was amazing. He was
really
the best forward I had in pre-season. He was absolutely brilliant.
I think he's the best prospect we've got at the academy, and have done for the last couple of years, including Duncan Watmore and Lyndon Gooch. In that, I think he's that good.
Well, if you took out Madge's goals in pre-season, then it would have looked even worse. I mean, it was a sketchy pre-season at best, but it would have looked really awful if it wasn't for him.
Yeah,
I know a lad who played with him for the under-18s, and he thinks he's one of the best players he's ever played with. But he says it's strange to say this, but I think he's actually more suited to the Premier League than he is the Championship, the way he plays. He's not the quickest, he hasn't got a turn of pace, but his first touch and his abilities are something else.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent footballer.
Yeah, and I guess when I'm saying we don't have any other strikers, well, we've got Josh Madger, and he did earn his chance in pre-season. It'll be interesting I would imagine with Vaughan not being available at the weekend, that Madger might be on the bench at least, and we might see him late in the game. It would be good, because I think, putting his injury aside that he got, if he hadn't have been injured, he would have played against Derby. I've got no doubt about that.
Yeah,
because he'd been the strongest forward in the team in pre-season without a doubt, and then for him to get that injury in the Bradford game was in fact the game where he got injured in the Bradford game, he was class. He scored a good goal. It just makes you think, like, I hope it hasn't stagnated him.
Yeah, you don't know how they're going to react to injuries and stuff.
He's earned his opportunity. You know, now he's nearing fitness. He should be in the first team.
I would probably say Marja's already the best target man in the team right now, and not like an old school target man where he's going to jump up and win a header and battle the centre back. But he's a massive unit already, and because of his ability, he's got a low centre of gravity, and he's brilliant at keeping the ball to touch. And he showed that all through pre-season, though he was linking up with Bobby Kazri, keeping the ball, holding defenders off. Like, holding off, like, Scottish defenders who play, like, pretty rough football week in, week out. And he's holding these off like he's an accomplished professional. And then linking up with players. And I think he's already, like, got the ability to, like, get the best out of team players around him as well. Like, Graben obviously needs somebody there with him. And Marja can do that. Marja can do what Vaughan does if he's fully fit.
I agree with you there. I think Marja kind of shows more in his all-round game than even Graben at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of strength and ability and holding a man off.
It's interesting, actually, now we're talking about it. Maybe he might be involved at the weekend. I think the under.
How far away is he from fitness?
Well, he only played. I think he played an hour yesterday.
Yeah.
Did he? So he's on the recovery trail.
We'll probably know by Thursday. I think the under 23's got a cup game on Thursday at Hull.
I quite like the club's tweets as well about Marja. But it was at half time against Leicester. It was the pre-organised 45 minutes is over. Like, as in, like, don't worry, he's not injured again.
Aye.
I think one of the criticisms levelled at Asoro as well, that he can be a bit kind of big-headed and playboyish. I think that comes across in his social media occasionally, not to point fingers, but Maggi, you don't get that sense at all. He seems very well-grounded.
No, I've spoken to people,
very humble.
I've spoken to somebody who works there at the club, told us a lot about Maggi. Said he's one of the most well-liked kids there. He's got so much respect for everybody. He's very graceful. He talks to everyone. He's a nice kid. So you've got to kind of think, because he's so well-grounded, he's probably got, the best chance of making it here.
He was actually another one who came through Fulham Academy and played at youth level with the Sessegnon brothers.
Right.
And I was quite surprised when they let him go. And I think getting him in and getting him out to Sunderland was quite a coup, getting him up from London. But I think I don't know if he's ready yet, but as soon as he does come back, we've got to get him at least within reckoning, maybe on the bench, just to get him the experience, at least.
I think he'll be on the bench on Saturday. He's got to be. Kind of when you think about it now, we haven't got any other forwards, so we need somebody on the bench. But like I say, he's earned his chance to be there. The injury shouldn't change that. In the same way that McNair and Watmore were brought pretty much back in the fold after their injuries, I think Maggi should be too.
I've been impressed with McNair since he's come back. Like,
He was poor on Saturday, though.
I thought he was pretty poor on Saturday, but again,
Coming back from injury.
that's it. He's got to get over that first month or two, and then maybe look to kick
That
on.
was probably, what was that, his third start?
Yeah.
So
and he's been thrown back in straight at the deep
judge
end,
him.
man, as well.
Yeah. I mean, I really like him as a footballer. I liked him last year. He just looks to me as though he'll make it. He's got all the qualities to be a good central midfielder. Versatile as well.
Yeah, I can see why he's brought in the team at the weekend, because we have no height in our team, bar the centre half. So it was important to get somebody else in there who can help on set pieces and stuff.
Good on both boxes.
Yeah.
You think, exactly. If you need a goal, you can put Paddy McNair in an attacking position, and he is good in that final third. If you need to defend, you can put him as like an extra centre back. If you like, if that's what you want to call it, he can do that.
Isn't his preferred positions is a number 10, isn't it?
Yeah, he likes to be number 10.
Yeah. I wonder if I don't think he'll ever play there. I think he's too rangy to play that far forward.
He's got a good utility player to have around. Obviously, I'd like to see him nail a position, but he's been talked about as a centre back, centre midfielder, defensive midfielder off the front man.
He was originally signed as a striker from, I think, to Man United. Man United scouted him from, I think, with Ballymena in Northern Ireland. He was originally signed as a striker and was slowly moved further and further back. I think the first time he played, like, as a full-on centre-back in his career, wasn't Van Hal.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
he's never played centre-half. He actually done an interview about that. Said, I'm not even a defender. They played him and Tyler Blackett at centre-half because they had that many injuries, didn't they?
Because Michael Carrick was like the extra defender.
But moving it on to the Reading game on Saturday, it's at home. Connor, what's your prediction?
I think they'll win. I always think they'll win, but I think they'll win this weekend. I think Reading are not great.
It's that blind optimism, isn't it?
It's not blind optimism, though. It's founded because they needed to get that monkey off their back, and they needed to win that game against Burton, and they did it in...
I think there's two monkeys, though. There's the winning monkey and then there's the home monkey.
Yeah, but I think now that they've won a game and the fact they've got a new manager, the focus isn't on the streak. I call it the streak.
The streak.
Yeah, the focus is
like
on
the
that
Undertaker.
Streak. It's on Coleman. It's on the positive atmosphere.
I'm with you here. Like I think that.
Likewise.
I think we're going to walk into the stadium on Saturday and feel a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the fans are starting to come back on side. Coleman's picked his words very wisely, but he made a great point. He didn't isolate the fans who aren't coming, like Grayson did.
Yeah.
He actually mentioned them. There's loads of fans that aren't coming. We need to get them back, which he's very right that they do. They need to make sure that the stadium starts to fill up again, because it's been a horrible place to visit.
Yeah.
We've all been going to the games for months now. And watching the team get beat every week, and it's getting worse and worse. But finally now we have a manager who seems to be able to galvanise the support. And I think when we turn up on Saturday, I think the crowd will be swelled. I think there'll be a much better atmosphere from the off. I don't think people will be so keen to moan and groan when things do go wrong. Which, although I understand it, that's what the case has been recently. As soon as the ball goes out of touch, it's the first sign. I don't think it'll be that this week.
I think it could be like when Martin O'Neill came in. Do you know that first game against Blackburn?
Just a
different feeling about the place.
Yeah.
You've been in such a malaise for such a long time that once everything seems to feel a little bit better, people buy back into it.
It's got to lift at some point as well. What's impressed me about Coleman as well, actually, when he's been talking about kind of winning the stay away fans back and the people he's lost, he's used like the collective we quite a lot, and he's talked as if he's been at the club when these bad things have been going on. It hasn't been, we've got to correct the wrongs from a previous regime. It's all about as in the team. He's part of that. He's part of that failure. He hasn't isolated it and pushed it at Grayson's door. It's almost like he's accepted responsibility for it already, which is really impressive.
But Grayson did the opposite. Grayson was always like, that had nothing to do with me. Like, this is new now. Everything's forgotten.
As was David Moyes.
Yeah. Coleman's just incorporated it and trying to right the wrong, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not of my business. What's happened in the past doesn't matter. Whereas
I think Coleman's shown his intelligence as well, because he wants to he needs to learn from that if he's going to get it right. He needs to understand it.
Yeah, he kind of gets Sunderland fans. Like, this is the most right I've felt about an appointment since Allardyce. I don't know if it just feels safe with Coleman. Like, there's something right that feels like Coleman at Sunderland. Just the way everything about him, like the way he holds himself, his character, he just feels like he fits the club.
It's his natural charisma, isn't it? It's the way he carries himself as a person.
It shouldn't be underestimated.
It's very easy to get behind somebody like that.
It shouldn't be underestimated how similar, and I've said this loads of times, people from South Wales and people from the northeast of England are, because of ex-industry and, not to go political, but Thatcher killing the mines, and they've experienced a lot of the same hardships economically. So he gets the area already. They're the same type of people. It won't take them long to click on it, and you've already seen that. I mean, we'll go back to the celebrations at the end, like, just to give that fans that little bit. It wasn't overdoing it like Di Canio, but he knew the fans wanted that, and it wasn't a triumphant look at me. It was just yes, we've done it. And even in the celebration, he was like, right, it wasn't on to the next one.
It wasn't as lukewarm as David Moyes doing it at Doncaster in pre-season.
There was a deafening row on that terrace as well. Like, when he came over, he didn't even come over, he just kind of turned towards the away end, and there was a deafening row. It was amazing. It's lifted all of us.
Well, it's just a relief, isn't it? I think he said something a bit more sharp than that.
Do you think I thought our lip
come on, you fucking beauty?
Was it? I thought it was how are you bastards?
I thought it was how are you fucking bastards? I think he called me a bastard.
He can call me whatever he wants.
It must have been a brilliant atmosphere on the terraces though, James.
Yeah,
to go down to Burton and be on the terrace in a league game must have been class.
It's amazing. Like, I didn't think I was always kind of looking forward to it because of the stadium. Like, I'm a big non-league football fan. And I love an old school terrace, and the feeling of being able, when you lose your mind when you score a late 85th minute winner like that,
the limbs, and
not go straight into the back of a chair is amazing. You could just fall into this crowd and push back and fall. It was just the whole atmosphere for the whole 90 minutes was so much better. And it obviously helped by the win, but it was also helped by the performance of the lads, the way they played, the way they fought for everything again, just like the Villa game. It's just such a change from the uninspiring matches under Grayson and Moyes.
Was anybody down at Peterborough in the cup that time when we were on the terrace?
That
was class.
Was that the McLean?
Yeah, Seb Larson
in
the FA Cup. That was similar. I was in the terrace that day. Absolutely brilliant. Just makes you wish that it was.
Well, hopefully safe standing's going to come back. That's been talked about in Scotland a bit, hasn't it? So
it's a bit different though, because you still got a rail behind you.
That's true.
It's the old terraces are mad. I feel a bit envious of people who just went every week to games where it was like that.
Well, the stories of 70,000 cramming into Roker Park. It's how was that possible?
Yeah.
It's mad. Yeah. Right, anyway, I'll go round the table to end and get your score predictions, Connor.
I think
score prediction and scorer.
I think scorer. I've got scorers.
Oh, you got scorers, right? Go.
I think we'll win 3-1. Scorers. I haven't really thought that far. John O'Shea, because I always fancy him for a goal.
He's got 3.
I know. I just always fancy him.
He did nutmeg Figo once though. So
he did. Yeah. Did you not see that goal he scored against Arsenal as well?
The nice little chip.
Aye. I think John O'Shea scores. You owe me a £5. John O'Shea brace. No, not that far. John O'Shea probably grabbing. Maybe McNair.
James, how are you feeling about it?
I was going to go 1-0, 90th minute, Donald Love, but I went for the O'Shea one, so I've got to take it serious. Got to be grabbing. Motivated against a team that he was at and quite derided by the fans last year. He's going to be massively up for this one, I think.
Gav?
I'm going for a comfortable 2-0. I think it'll be the same as Burton. I think we won't get an early goal. I think we'll try and play in a similar fashion where we'll kind of just hold off, take it easy, and then once they start to tire, try and then really grab the game by the balls. 2-0, and I feel like another grabbing goal, and maybe even McNair. I don't know. He's always got a goal in him, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Gav. I think we'll play quite tentative. It might be a bit cagey. That whole monkey still on the back. So I think we'll leave it late, but 1 or 2-0 possibly in the same vein as Burton. Right, I think that's all for today. Thanks for listening. I've been James Copley. This is the Roker Rapport podcast. Thanks, Connor, for coming in. Thanks, James. Thanks, Gav.
No problem.
We're on Twitter at Roker Report. You can find all of our stuff on SB Nation, and the podcast is on Acast, iTunes, YouTube. That's the one. Thanks for listening. Cheers.